Greetings and welcome back. I hope you guys are all doing wonderful. Of course, we're talking about all browsers suck. I thought it was a fun, pithy title, but Pygantux says, not to be rude, but that title was a bad title. Okay. I thought it was good and clever. I don't know, but that's okay. What do you guys think? Was it a good title, bad title?
It's a great
like joke. I like it.
I really don't believe all browsers suck, but
I don't either. Yeah, I mean
it's clickbaity, man. It is.
It is clickbaity, but it's not going to be clickbait. It's just clickbaity. You know, it's come on. We're trying things to grow the channel here. You know, we got to grow the channel.
Yeah, you might as well do what everybody else is doing to make money.
As well. I was in another
get people to think.
Yeah, YouTube. I'm actually in some YouTube trainings from actual YouTube and reached out to be like, hey, you want to learn about doing, using affiliate stuff. That's why you might see the products show up at the bottom corner of the videos. That comes from that, which, a couple of people are using those, and that helps generate revenue. And hey, the more money we make for YouTube, the less inclined they are going to be like, delete, he's talking about Cody again. So, may as well try some things. Of course, our world is getting fun. I did receive a fun letter from the IRS. Remember how they brought in all those IRS agents to take care of those filthy rich people, right? So literally, this is what it says. And I sent this along to my tax accountant, but they're off for a couple days. So listen to this. We have changed your 2023 Form 1080 to match our record of your estimated tax payments, credits applied from other tax years, and or payments received with an extension to file. As a result, you owe $356. So it wasn't enough that I had to go and borrow money to pay my tax bill, which is outrageously high, so we can send all of our money over to Ukraine and Israel and everywhere other than United States. Now they want to reach into my empty pocket and take $356 more. Now, for their justification, because of our record of your estimated payments, credits applied from another year, and or credits received with an extension to file. I've not ever done an extension to file. Credits applied from another tax year. Is now Joe Biden rescinding credits he gave us? Maybe. Estimated tax pay. I have no idea. I can tell you I was a little short with this year's estimated taxes, but that affects this year, not next year. So I'm going to have to take money that I have set aside to pay quarterlies for this year and pay the IRS more so they can send more money to bomb people that I don't have any problem with. So I'm very happy that the IRS has their new expanded budget and that they are now using that money to go after extraordinarily rich people like me who actually has to borrow money to pay my meager tax bills. So, just raising a little bit of awareness about that, and curious if anybody else is receiving this fun stuff where the IRS is just trying to retroactively change your tax documents that they've already accepted, by the way. So I'm a little saucy about that, but I got the money to pay it, and I'm not really sure I want to fight it because I'm a conservative guy on the internet, and I'm prime target to be sent to some federal prison.
But fair is fair. If you think you're in the right, you should at least seek out why they're asking for more money and get an answer why they want it.
Yeah, well, my fun fact, if you have a good CPA, which I have, they have backdoors into the IRS to talk to them and get a lot more detail. And I mean, my CPA company is a massive firm. So I just send an inquiry up to them and send them a copy of the letter if they ask for it. They might already have a copy of the letter and say what's going on. And then they might send a bunch of tax lawyers to the IRS to go, what's going on, punk? But I also don't want to trigger an audit or anything either because I don't want to deal with that. It's like I'd rather okay, if we only have one more year of this nonsense, I'll just run another $300 check and be done with them. Might mean I'm a little late on next round quarterlies, but Lord, it never ends. It never ends.
Yeah. So here the tax system is a little. It's much simpler. So this they do this for everyone who earn any income, be it Social Security or a big $1 million job. Your taxes is taken from your monthly salary and automatically paid to the tax.
Okay, so yeah, that's what the W-2 system is for. Which honestly, I think the W-2 system needs to be abolished. I think if every American had to go once a quarter and actually write out a check to the IRS, I think that the average American would now get a lot more involved in politics and be a lot more vocal with their congresspeople about what happens to their tax money. But the problem with that system is they collect a little bit more, and then we have this celebration party and everyone gets all this money back. They go, oh, I got amazing things, and the whole entire consumer shopping season shows up around our tax refund season, which is a bunch of nonsense because it's the IRS withholding your money, giving it back to you, holding it for up to a year without paying you any interest. But if I happen to take the money and hold it and make interest on it and then want to settle with them at the end of the year, then they charge me taxes for not. Now, when you're self-employed, as I am, when you're self-employed, we have to write the quarterly checks because there's no entity that it comes out of because all the money's going directly to my accounts. So I have to write the checks, but a self-employed person also has to pay a 15.3% self-employment tax. Yay! Isn't that exciting that more of my money goes to the IRS? And that 15% covers, so everybody pays a 7%, well, 7-ish, it's half of the 15.3. They pay a 7-ish percent, that's your FICA tax if you look at your W-2s. That goes into Social Security, but I have letters that I will never see Social Security. So I just think it's a giant scam, but since it's the government, they can't be sued for that. So,
And another thing another part of the system is that, which I think is different from yours, is once a year. So in ours, I think it's in April or January. I don't remember, but it's early in the early months of each year. We get a letter with our details, tax details, stating you had paid this much in taxes.
Yep.
Unless you say something, this is what will be filed on your behalf. So I don't actually remember the last time I filed my taxes. We don't do that, and it's automatic. And you get a paper, and it says. After the numbers and so on, and that if this is correct, you don't have to do anything.
Yeah. So that's a neat system. There are actually, if you don't have a complicated tax structure like I do, or you're lower income, you actually have the option to use the IRS. You can fill in stuff and actually do it for free. Which is mostly just takes 10 minutes to enter details and things. But again, I have a more complicated tax structure, so it does require the CPA.
Yeah, it's the same. It's a little more complicated here too. If you are self-employed or you are a company and so on, there is a little more manual, but it's nowhere near as complicated as in the US.
Yeah, US is too complicated and a bunch of nonsense.
And you also have the difference you have the state tax and the federal tax. We don't have anything federal.
There's always federal. Some states don't have state taxes. So what I probably need to do is sometime, maybe even soon, is actually change my physical address, since I live in a van anyway. I could do like South Dakota. I just need to look at their tax structure. Move into one of the states officially where I don't pay state or local taxes. It really does a lot to alleviate those. I used to live in a tax-free state. It was so amazing. Taxes are so easy. You don't have all these things to deal with. Now, we did have to pay business license. So for my web design company working out of a home office, I did have to pay the local city. I think it was like $50 a year, but it wasn't complicated. It wasn't, let's see what your revenue is. And all this. It's like you go down, you file the paperwork, you write them a check, $50. Here's your license. If you're a million dollar company or a small mom and pop out of your house, it doesn't matter. It's $50. So, all right. What are you saying, Dan?
Tennessee, I believe, is a tax-free, income tax-free, except that sales tax is like double where it is everywhere else.
Yeah, sales tax is huge, and that's why Tennessee is on the radar. But there's other places like Wyoming is tax-free, and their sales tax is 5% with an optional 1% in different jurisdictions.
Tennessee is also a tourist type state with
Yeah.
having Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge and
Yeah,
the Smoky Mountains and all
you
that.
have the biggest problems in Tennessee is you either have really upscale stuff that's super expensive, or you have backwoods meth infested towns. And so there's not a ton in between. And so it's either really expensive to live in or really dangerous to live in, depending on which part you are in Tennessee. So, but you know, there's some odds and ends. All right, let's go ahead and get into, let me look at the comments, and then, yeah, we'll get into why all browsers suck here in a bit. Duster expecting some Super L take from this video. LibreWolf has been serving well, yeah. And non-Chromium browser is currently most sane to the upcoming Manifest v3. Mozilla has clearly stated they're going to keep v2 in support. Yes. It will be interesting to hear my definition of a decent browser. I haven't found one. And all browsers suck.
Every single one of them.
Everyone. Yeah, Ivan, we gave Ivan PTSD talking about the IRS, so he had to leave for a little bit. He's back now that we're done talking about the IRS.
Yeah, I had to help my neighbor talk about car insurance.
Oh, fine, okay. What people actually want from a web browser, Magic? Yeah, well, I will tell you what I would like to see from a web browser. And actually, curiously, Android does accomplish what I want from a web browser. And so it'll be interesting to see what they're doing. Tornadoes there at CCJ. If you end up knocking out that Wicked Witch of the West, I hear those shoes are valuable, so go ahead and take a copy of those. YouTube and you and money. I thought you two hated you. That's right. Oh boy. All right, go after the guy living in the van, but not the guy living in a $1 million brick home who votes blue to let him pass. Yeah. So is Texas a no state? I don't remember. I don't think Texas is a state, but I don't remember. Texas is not nearly as free. Everyone's like, free Texas is the bastion of freedom. Texas is the 4th most regulated state in the country. It is not the bastion of freedom. It's not even the pure bastion of conservatism either. There's a lot of conservatism in small pockets here and there, but there's a lot of not as well. It's I think it's more of a trope or even a stereotype that it's this bastion of freedom and stuff.
Yeah, even Arizona's getting like that.
Yeah.
Well, you get these California types, that want to leave California because it's too expensive, but they bring their ideology over to the other state, and then it starts growing to the bad side too.
Really, a lot of the people that go from like California to Texas, I'd say the majority of them are actually more conservative, which means that Texas is becoming a more focused, more pure blue than anything. Texas is a no state income tax. Thank you. Yeah, I don't remember for sure. I spend an exorbitant amount of my year in Texas. I just haven't had to file taxes there. So. Over on Odyssey, we have 32 watching on YouTube. We got 12 on Odyssey. Soon we'll have AI garbage in Firefox. Yep, we're going to look at that. LibreWolf and Florp. I have not seen Florp before. Okay. What do you expect? I get taxed 30% off of the paycheck. Yep. And then what's the story about Firefox being so bad? Hey, Common Austin, we have not gotten into our story yet. We're just doing our comments. We got 32 over on Rumble. Rumble's back to being the same amount as YouTube. That's weird. For a while there, Rumble was really low and YouTube was higher. I don't know. Anyway, Uncle Bonehead's over go. Dude, the emojis on Rumble kind of suck. All right. I don't even know how to use them. Oh, okay. I guess I can use them by pulling up that little thing. Oh, there's animated emojis. Interesting. Wow. Let's see. Hello, Kaokik. Greetings to Andy Man. Greetings. Debian XFCE over there across the pond. Let's see. Toad in the hole tonight. There we go. Waiting for the storm tonight with tornadoes and 80-mile-an-hour winds. That's exciting. Yeah, we might have had hail last night. I don't remember. Like, no damage. I haven't seen any damage, but actually I haven't looked at the front window. There was hail last night. I might have front window damage, but my solar panels are fine, so I don't care. Sparsely populated places. You like Wyoming. YouTube gods are mercurial at best. Yes, but if I throw them a few bones and give them more money by their own affiliate system, I know I might please the YouTube gods slightly. Hello, Strawberry. Greetings. What's happening, sweets? I don't have any more sweets left, man. I ate my last bag of M&Ms today. I'm gonna go get more. I ate my last bag of cookies yesterday. IRS is nothing more than the collection of agency for the Federal Reserve. Yep. They loan us our own money and threaten to imprison us if we don't pay it back. Yep. Forefathers would roll over in their graves. Yep. How's everything going, may I ask? UK is exactly the same as the HMRC in the UK is exactly the same as the IRS. Yeah.
There's another thing that we do, many do in Norway at least. A lot of people, they're not in the majority, but a lot of people actually pay more taxes than they need to because unlike in the US, they actually pay interest on if you have paid too much. Mm-hmm. Because then you accumulate a bit of money that you can use for vacation the next summer when the taxes are returned to you.
Yep.
Okay, this is important, Tom. That is for that's for last year's taxes, right?
Yes, and that's the curious part. Because,
is there any interest on it?
If I don't pay it by June 10th, they're going to charge me 0.5% interest.
Here's a nasty little trick they used to do back in the 90s and the early 2000s is they would actually wait 3 or 4 years to send you that letter, and then they would want the interest for the time gap.
Yeah, that's a good thing about working with a good CPA is they generally don't let you doing that because this big CPAs, they generally stand behind your clients. So, I mean, we'll see what happens. All right, let's get into our all browsers suck discussion. Oh, I did want to answer this. Am I going to be talking about Microsoft Recall? Saturday's video will be Microsoft Recall. I didn't want to do it like I should have done it earlier because it was huge trending. Everyone's talking about it. But I already did a Windows video this week, and
Microsoft Total Recall.
Yes. And I think my thumbnail is going to be something like,
"Don't use Total Recall. Someone else already stole it."
Anyway, let's go ahead and get on into this. So what got me thinking about this, there was a few videos on Firefox trending, and I watched the DT one. I did not watch the Linux experiment one. Did either of you guys watch that one? He had one where Firefox collecting data was in the thumbnail. Did you guys watch that one?
No, I didn't.
Okay, I meant to watch it, and I just didn't get the chance. I did watch DT's, though, and I generally agreed with DT's take on all that. The challenge, of course, the thesis of his video is that Firefox is a privacy browser, yet they have this very close association with Google Analytics. Kind of like other companies like OnlyOffice. It announces privacy stuff, and it has this very, very close association with Google. Not just signing in Google accounts, but in their product, in their app, on their website, everything. It's all about the data. And so that's the challenge that we have. Now, does that stop me from using it entirely? No. Same with OnlyOffice. I wouldn't tell somebody don't ever use OnlyOffice. They have a connection to Google. No, I just wish that they'd be a little bit more transparent about that. They are, if you read their privacy policy. But
they hide the boogeyman in there somewhere.
Well, I mean, they have a good privacy policy in that they do highlight that they have a specific privacy policy dealing with. This is OnlyOffice. They have a specific privacy policy dealing with their connection to Google, and they also mention Google and their main privacy policy as well. Curiously, though, they don't link their privacy policy directly as a page on their website, which means it's much harder to archive because they use their own internal system to change that, which means they could change it without a lot of headway and notice. Which I think they do it to illustrate the coolness of their product, but I'm not sure that's the best on a legal standpoint because technically their privacy policy is technically not on their website. So if we want to get technical, and maybe we'll talk about that in a separate video, at least for you Patreon supporters, we can mention some of that. But what's going on with Firefox, of course, is DT's video. He says it's a privacy but focused browser, but the default is to collect analytics unless you go and turn it off. The default search engine is Google. You have a lot of other factors involved that none of them are really privacy focused. They opt you into experiments unless you explicitly opt out. They put you into Pocket, which has had some privacy issues in the past, unless you explicitly opt out. So is Firefox really a privacy browser? Now, what I like is the fact that Firefox does allow me to control all that kind of stuff. I can turn it off. It's easy to turn off. You can do it in the toggles, just in the settings menu. You can do it in the about config. You can even do it in a policy. So I can write a Firefox policy that is immutable. Once that's on the system, I can't change it. In fact, that was one of the problems I had with Armbian on the Raspberry Pi. They put a policy in there that you couldn't change the default homepage of Firefox. Like, really? So I had to get rid of the policy file to do that. But the policy file prevents you from making any changes, which is good and bad, of course. It's really good in that, okay, I'm going to turn off a bunch of things. I never want to turn them on. As long as I take that policy file and deploy it on any machine, I don't have to go back in the Firefox settings every time I deploy it. That is what is really good about Firefox. Now, the challenge is they're trying to cram everything into it. And so the first thing I want to talk about here is browser creep. So I listed a bunch of ones I knew of in the show notes for you guys. And I'm completely sure I missed a bunch of them. So I'll let you guys jump in with any of those. First one, Chrome has a price tracking feature. I didn't know about this. But in fact, I absolutely love this Reddit post here. And the Reddit post says, how do I turn off this bloody price tracking feature? I don't want it. And it's troubleshooting Linux, Google Chrome, a feature creep hellscape that begs for the apocalypse. I just absolutely love that. And so apparently there's a price tracking feature inside of Chrome that anytime you're on a page with a website, if you want it to, it'll be like, hey, we have found this at some oddshadystore.com. Actually, some oddshadystore.xyz. Would you like to buy it from there instead? So apparently that's a fun feature creep, is they have code in there that's constantly scouring the internet looking for cheaper prices. That's neat. Amazon does something like that. I watched a video today about the dark side of Amazon. And if
I watched that one too.
Yeah, if you set your prices lower, anywhere but Amazon, they'll hide your buy now box on Amazon.
Yeah.
As a way to drive your prices up. So I was thinking, how might I get around that? I might get around that by keeping the prices all the same, but go to my website and you get a 20% off coupon. Hey, there you go. Their algorithm may or may not pick that up, or having it in my stuff. So Vivaldi has a whole mail client crammed in. It's a web browser. Why do you need a mail client crammed into it?
The reason is that Vivaldi is trying to re-implement the features of the old Opera that the Vivaldi developers used to manage before the Chinese company grabbed all the assets.
Yeah, I know why, but why? It's a web browser. Why do we need a mail client in a web browser? I mean, I'm
using Vivaldi right now, and there is no mail client in it whatsoever.
There is, actually.
You tell me where it's at, and I'll find it.
I don't remember off the top of my head. I know I've seen it. I've played around with it on a couple of videos. If you dig in the settings, you will probably find the mail client in there somewhere.
Yeah, it could be that you have disabled the mail client, then it maybe it disappears.
I am pretty good about undoing junk.
Yeah, it's not right on the surface. You got to dig for it a little.
We'll get into the AI in a bit. Firefox. Now, I've been getting this pop up lately, which I think is something related to Arch. I've seen it on my Manjaro system and on my Endeavor system. I've not seen it on the Mint systems, but I'm getting this constant pop up that speech synthesis can't be processed right now. Like, what? Wait, huh? Well, apparently there's some package in Arch that has been pulled out, and it causes this pop-up in Firefox. Well, if you have to go into Firefox about config and turn off the speech synthesis things, and then it'll stop telling you about speech synthesis. But, why I need speech synthesis turned on, of course, the commons that some people like, notifications, geolocation, picture-in-picture, etc. Those some people like, some people don't. Of course, come on, man, use geolocation. We'll be able to find you things relevant to what you're talking about. No. Firefox bringing on onboard translation. I mean, come on, it's local. It doesn't go out to the cloud, which means your browser now has a ton of internal code. It's extremely bloated. And you know how many times I go to foreign websites and need a translation? Almost never. It's happened once in a blue moon, and there are these things called plugins.
Plug it in, plug it in.
Yeah, plug it in, plug it in. Brave, of course, has the BAT token system embedded in. So those are the ones I came up with. Any other ones you guys can think of for feature creep inside of browsers that aren't, at best, only tangentially related to web browsing?
The thing that always annoys me with many browsers is that they are configured by default to allow websites to ask you if they are allowed to push notifications to you. So that is one of the first thing that I use the settings thing and search for to turn off.
Yep. Yeah. DOM notifications in about config.
Yeah. If I wanted some notification from a website, I'm quite capable of adding the website to my RSS reader.
Yep, and that'll work. Yep. So we're getting all this feature creep now. As I think, as we had discussed on the board as we were talking about this a little bit, you can turn all these features off. That is true. You can turn these features off. My problem is, why are we bloating the code with all of these things? Yes, I can turn it off. I understand that. But now you're still shipping me this massive bloated package, which is full of code. Every extra feature they're trying to cram in will carry with it its own possibilities of backdoors, issues, bugs, problems. Whereas if we just streamline the browser to not have all this extra nonsense, we actually produce a more secure browser because it lowers the just the threshold of possible attack vectors. So that's really the case. Anything else before we move into part 2?
I found the mail in Vivaldi.
Yep.
There's a at the bottom there is a icon in the settings. It says mail, and if you go in there, it's got a little switch to disable it.
Yep. So isn't it great that your web browser now wants to check your email?
Well, I'm okay with this because it's switched off by default, and it's one checkbox. It says enable mail, calendars, and feeds, and it's unchecked, and it's been. It had to come. It had to come to me like that.
My point is that takes a ton of extra code to implement. It increases the attack vector of the software, and it's something that the average person doesn't even like. You're a Vivaldi user and you didn't know it was there.
I only use it because it works. At the time we started doing these Jitsi meets,
that's right. You're not
you're
not a regular Vivaldi user. You're just using it for the Jitsi calls. Yeah,
that's all I use it for.
Yeah, I can understand that.
The Firefox didn't work out great.
It's like there's these things called mail clients, and it's bringing the extra code and it carries with it the attack vector, and that's what my point is. So Android has a Streamlined browser. They have 3 of them that I know of, and there's probably more. DuckDuckGo browser is a Streamlined browser. Firefox, they have the same one. It has 2 different names, Firefox Focus or Firefox Clar. If you're looking for it in the Play Store, or I think it's probably on the Apple Store as well, it's called Firefox Focus. If you look for it on more open source, it's called Firefox Clar. And this is it carries with it the ability to look at websites and access audio to play videos and things like that. It has no connection to the GPS, so it's a browser that cannot even technically gain access to your location other than IP address. Can do an IP address, obviously, because of that, but it can't connect to your phone's other internal GPS systems. It doesn't have access to microphones. It doesn't have access to cameras. It doesn't do all of this other stuff. So it streamlines it down, and it does that because that's what they had to do to make sure the privacy was enhanced. But because they did that, it also meant the security was enhanced in that perspective. And so it was, those are what I'd like to see, a version of those for the PC. I'm not in favor of saying, okay, every one of these web browsers should completely get rid of all this kind of stuff, because some people might want or need some of that stuff, but some of us don't. It'd be really nice if I could download a 50 megabyte version of Firefox that didn't have access to notifications and didn't have access to onboard translators or the AI. We'll talk about that in a few minutes here. I would like a web browser that just browses the web. Is that too much to ask for?
An AI to browse the AI.
Yeah, there you go. We're going to need that soon. Excuse me, AI. Can you browse the AI for information about AI?
Yeah.
Oh, only when the top stops spinning. Anybody have any commentary about that? Would you guys be in favor of a streamlined browser that doesn't have all this stuff?
I use some of the stuff, but I mainly use LibreWolf as my primary browser, and it does a really good job for what I need a browser for.
Yep.
And it's very hard, and sometimes I'll come across something where I'll click on a link and I want to see something, and it won't let me see it. I have to take the actual link that's in the address bar and copy it over to another browser just to see something I might want to buy or something like that, or see an article. But with Firefox, it does come with DRM and enabled in it, and you can take a Firefox browser and you can actually set it up like a Roku box. Just open a tab for each streaming service that you're using and log into them, and set it so it doesn't close the tabs when you get out of Firefox. And it's a cheap, easy way to get around buying one of those stupid boxes.
Yep. Ivan, were you going to jump in there?
I was going to say, I certainly wouldn't mind a nice streamlined browser that I could use for just average, ordinary browsing.
Yep.
That I could use, say, like on X, they got the stupid links to different whatevers, where I could copy the link and bring it over into a streamlined browser and fire it off there versus in Firefox, where I've got my main stuff going on.
Well, I believe there is a terminal browser available if you want to go that far into it.
Yeah, there's a couple actually. I remember 2 or 3 years ago. I don't remember its name, but there was a browser that someone was writing an article about, and I think they showed it in a YouTube video. It uses Firefox in the as the backend, but it's a terminal. It works in a terminal, so you can SSH into a server and run this browser, and it would use the Firefox engine to fetch the web pages, and in the terminal I think is 16 colors and so on. And it would even play YouTube videos, very pixelated, but still.
Okay, what about Chromium? Not Chromium. Is that still a valid, good piece of software to use?
Yeah, and you can do, if you're more paranoid, you can do the ungoogled Chromium as well, which is becoming easier to install on a lot of browsers. But I mean, Chromium itself, I think, is still good.
I didn't know Chromium was Googleized.
No, it's so the Chromium project is a Google project, just like Android is a Google project. But they don't have any of their proprietary blobs. It's pure open source. Now, there are still some connections to Google that are part of the open source code, but we're aware of them. We can do things about them. And that's where the ungoogled Chromium comes into play, where it actively removes all that kind of stuff. But then what they do with Chrome is they take the Chromium and then they add their proprietary nonsense to it, and then they release out Chromium with a slight performance boost just to make sure people are on Chrome instead of Chromium, because we all know that with how efficient our times are, that extra 0.3 milliseconds takes, it's just massive time gain for the average person who spends more time, wasting time than anything else. But, so yeah, I mean, I think
just to show that Firefox does cater to Google and their outfit, and they get money from them. They also, for DRM, they use the Google Wide Vine DRM unit to make their DRM work in Firefox.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
otherwise we would not have an open source project that had DRM, because none of the other ones do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
one thing that Vivaldi could do is to do what the Mozilla project, which ended up being Firefox, did when they open sourced the code back 20 or so years ago. When they
I remember a few years ago there was a Mozilla package you got instead of Firefox.
Yeah, but so what the Mozilla project ended up doing is that they separated out the mail client from the suite into separate programs. So you had a dedicated mail client and a dedicated Usenet client and so on.
What I really find irritating is with Firefox is the Linux version looks really nice and it's sized properly for just about any monitor you're using. But if you use the Windows version of Firefox, the whole upper margin is just exploded up, twice the size it needs to be. It's not it's not proportionally the same as Linux.
Interesting. Salbe, were you done?
Yeah, I'm sorry if I cut you off.
Yeah. So Vivaldi could go down this path of so they could have that the default is including everything, but for those who really want, they could have the browser only package.
Let's send these. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm interrupting you now. Sorry.
So they would have so the distributions could like Debian would do is to or the Debian where they like to separate all the features into a separate package. So you could install only the browser package, and if you wanted the mail client, you could install the Vivaldi dash mail, which would add it in the
Yeah. See, I was going to make a joke about that, and you said it seriously, so it's not going to land as well. But I'd say just pass these browsers over to Debian, and they'll stream all the stuff out, and they'll give us, Firefox on Debian's going to be like just a web browser, but Firefox-full, will give you everything because, I'd be in favor of that, Debian. I'm more in favor of that than stripping down KeyPass.
Well, if you really don't want to, you can always try Firefox ESR. It's kind of more stripped down than regular Firefox.
Yeah, it does actually kind of suck, though. I was in my tests with a couple different builds, MX Linux and Armbian on the Raspberry Pi 5. That was like YouTube video. Everything was like a little stutter. I'm like, this kind of sucks a little bit. Well, it was Firefox ESR. When I got rid of that and I installed the Firefox's deb file, everything's like zoomed. It was really fast. So there's something about Firefox ESR that's slow and laggy on a Pi.
Yeah.
So the now all of this kind of was spawned on by we got the release of the roadmap for Firefox. So community manager John says, of course they're bringing the features we've asked for. Whichever one of you guys asked for AI, get out of here. Leave.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding. So some of these like tab grouping, vertical tabs, and sidebar, I absolutely will be looking to how to disable that nonsense as soon as it lands. But I do recognize I am probably atypical in that. I know some of you guys brag about your 7,000 tabs being open. You know what? That's fine. I just don't use my browser that way. I do not need to organize my tabs into tab grouping. Especially if it tries to do tab grouping automatically, I will probably uninstall it. That'll get me to switch back to Chrome or something, Vertical tabs, don't care. But I understand there is a use case for that among people. What, Dan?
Yeah, I like the fact that they that the examples that they use in the tab grouping and vertical and so on is to use the and they link to the article of the user who had collected 2 years or so of tabs and lost them.
Yeah. All right, Dan.
If you need to have that many tabs open, you need to really start considering using the bookmarks and storing the links for them that way.
Come on, it's a status symbol, man. It's like using Arch. I use 7,000 tabs, by the way.
It is possible to open so many tabs that you've sucked up all the memory in your computer.
No, because in the modern implementation, it will release memory from inactive tabs, and so it no longer impacts the memory.
Well, if the tabs are no longer in memory, then they're just sitting there idle as an object of vision.
As a bookmark. Yes. But it's the point of the
You have to go fetch the information again when you click on it.
Well, if it's already been loaded and there's no active JavaScript that's reloading the page, it's probably still accurate. It's just
that's a pointless piece of junk if they do that.
Yeah. Well, I can understand why they're doing that. Go ahead, Selby.
Yeah, I remember, I think it was last year, I saw an advertisement, or 2 years ago. I was looking for a new server for my basement, and I found one that was cheap and not too far away. But one of the used computers that showed up, it had, I think it had almost 1 terabyte of memory that you could get on this thing. And it said in the advertising that this was perfect for those who had 1,000 tabs open in your browser.
Yeah. They have customizable new tab wallpapers. I could get on board with that, maybe. Intuitive privacy settings. Yeah. How about one master toggle switch? Don't collect anything. Don't send anything. Don't track anything. You know. Where's the single toggle button that says I'm a privacy mid-40s German soldier? But anyway, intuitive privacy settings that deliver all the power of our world-class anti-tracking technology that we still use Google with, in simplified, easy-to-understand way. I didn't think it was that hard to understand.
Yeah, they need to have a boomer button put in.
There you go. Hey, you'll like this last one then. More streamlined menus, reduce visual clutter, and prioritize top user actions so you can get to important things quicker. As long as they're not depreciating settings, I'm okay with that. Although usually a lot of the settings I take care of inside of the about config anyway, so what do I care, right?
Yeah, as long as they don't have a system where some of the settings move around as you. So
at every update.
No, I'm talking about it. Sound depending on how you understand this, it could be understand such that this new feature is if there is a particular setting that you turn on and off often enough, it would show up higher in the menu system rather than other things which is pushed down. That could make certain things more difficult to find if you don't use it often.
Yeah, that would drive me crazy because it's like, okay, I know where it is. Now I'm going to have to pay more attention and look closer to find it, really.
Yeah, and if anyone from one of the developers of Firefox is listening, if you have such a feature or is working on such a feature, have a checkbox that we can turn this off in order to have the old way of doing things. That would satisfy a lot of people.
Yeah, there could be like a master toggle switch to control some of the things. Like I'm okay with a lot of these things we're talking about, as long as it's not like every single browser is now 500 megabytes as it downloads 700,000 pieces of bloat that I am never going to use. That's why I say all web browsers suck. It's like, just give me a web browser, just a web browser. But what about online translation? I just don't go to sites that need that. If I do, I can switch to a browser that has it, but it's not part of my regular data block.
Yeah, and if one actually need to have some translation or thing, typing and entering into a new browser pane, the Google Translate website is not. It's not hard to do.
Yeah, and plugins. This is what plugins and extensions are for. You know, we can do these, of course. I don't know. Geolocate, like, why is there not a master button that's easy to find that says, I never want to see any website ask ever about notifications, don't ever offer it? Because best I could tell, I think there used to be a button for that, and they've gotten rid of it. You can do it in about config, but, you know. Which I do. DOM.notifications. That's what you're looking for to disable. Making the most of your time without sacrifices. Ensuring privacy is a core area we do, unlike other companies who ask you to exchange data in order to do basic things, which they kind of do anyway. But you don't have to give up your personal information to get faster, more efficient browser experience, reading a news story in a different language. See, all of these things they're trying to do, so they're trying to do PDF translation. They're trying, of course, they added the whole PDF reader inside of it. Dude, I have a PDF reader. Everybody has a PDF reader. Even if you're on Windows, you have a PDF reader. We do not need it embedded into the browser such that if I click a download button, this is the big problem I hate with this new modern system. I click a download button, guess what that means? Download. Download does not mean display it in the browser.
Yeah, that's also one of the first.
Oh, then the PDF viewer will give you the download icon to download it.
Yeah. So if I go to a PDF, if I know there's a PDF on a site and I right click and download, the expected behavior should be download, not right click download, display there, and now I have to push the download button from there. So I end up turning off the PDF reading functionality in the browser, which you can do deep inside of the about.config file or about.config file for Firefox. But now if I want to view a PDF in the browser, I can't even do that. It's like, stop. Just if I right click and download, it should download. It shouldn't display it. It's very frustrating because a lot of my banks right now, and if I do, want to download the digital statements, and I'm doing these in isolated windows without back menus, I have to grab one. If I don't do it right, I have to close the whole thing down, reboot the whole system, and then log back into the bank again. All because I'm trying to download, not view, because I don't have a back button. I will put a back button in when I rebuild the banking system.
Another problem that I keep having, that I used to have with Firefox, that was resolved by installing a dedicated plugin. So if you click on, so I do a lot of translation, and so I work with .po files, and the browser doesn't know how to handle that. So it would ask me to select which program I want to open this with, and I want to open it as a text file in the browser, which I can't do without having a plugin. So one option that should be available is one of the options for what to do with what you click on is open it in the browser as a plain text file. Should be one of the options.
Yeah. That's more feature creep, though. I don't know if I like that. All right. Of course, AI is a big topic. So guess what Firefox is going to start doing? We're approaching the use of AI in Firefox. Now, of course, we understand the problems with using AI that's going out to a separate company. Company has the data and they can train their AI with it. Oh, no. We're going to figure out how to do this on local, on-device AI models. So what? Firefox is now going to be 8 gigabytes to download because it has this AI system in the background that I don't even want? So yes, this is the way to do AI more privately to enhance browsing experience further. I don't need AI to extend my browsing experience. Browsing does not require an AI. Browsing requires me to go to the website and type something in the URL. I don't need AI for this.
You will need the AI to talk to the AI to get what you want.
That's right. Because, of course, every search engine has become completely useless as well. We could talk about that one later. But every search engine has now completely sucks. Like Brave started really good. Brave sucks now. I'm finding myself on DuckDuckGo more right now. DuckDuckGo seems to be working right now.
What I can't find on Start Page, I find on DuckDuckGo.
I can't even find stuff on Start Page anymore. It's like because AI has completely destroyed the ability to find anything on the internet. It is insane. They're starting with AI to generate alt text for images inserted into PDFs. Who asked for this? I mean, so you're going to bloat me up with another 1,000,000 lines of code to figure out how to give me alt text image for a PDF. I don't even want the PDF reader in there.
Yeah, not every object in a PDF needs to have an alt text on it.
Come on, man. We need an alt text image in that PDF.
Right.
There is a certain type of users who actually could benefit greatly from this particular feature.
Yeah,
and that is blind people who need screen readers.
There's a comma, and the part after the comma says, which is more accessible to visually impaired users and people with learning disabilities. I understand that. Again, how many people using your browser are blind? Probably not a large cross-section. This is what plugins and extensions are for. We don't need to ship a browser with 100 more megabytes of data to process something for a very small cross-section of your user base when the browser is already extensible with plugins and extensions. You can make an official extension to say, download this extension if you have these issues, and boom, we have solved the problem without making every browser extremely bloated and full of nonsense. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so negative today. I feel like Terafton or something. Come on, guys.
If they're gonna do that, they should at least make a Firefox Lite or something like that.
That's what my argument is. We need a Firefox Lite. Please, Mozilla, make a Firefox Lite. Say, here is the full Firefox, 5 gigabyte download, onboard AI, PDF readers, full language to everything. I mean, this thing will do your laundry for you.
It'll do your
here's the 50 megabyte
you.
one you can use to search the internet.
I'd love to see Focus as a desktop.
I would love to see Firefox Focus as a desktop browser. Like, it doesn't have access to GPS. It doesn't have access to microphones. It doesn't have access to cameras. I would love that browser. I would promote that browser from the rooftops.
Then we would not be having this conversation face to face because we can't use our cameras and microphones.
Yeah. Well, of course, that's why on my phone, I do have that I use for a lot of things. But yes, there are times you need to do something like this, which, well, I mean, I'm using the Jitsi app. I don't know about you guys. But yeah, I mean, there's other web browsers that you can download for that. What I'm saying and advocating for is options. I'm advocating for the options. I want an option of the huge, massive browser.bloat, and I really want one that's like browser.lite, so... Of course, Coco Daddy disagrees with bloat argument. Don't think having features baked in that one does not use necessarily makes it a huge behemoth that's slow and clunky. I'm not necessarily saying that the browser becomes slow and clunky. I am going to make the argument that it is a huge behemoth. Yes, because every time you add these features into the browser, it makes it bigger and bigger and bigger. And if I'm downloading, 500 megabytes of extra data, for features I am never using every single week when they do an upgrade, that's a lot of bandwidth being used unnecessarily. Now, yes, if you don't use those features, the browser is not necessarily slow and clunky. But we need to distinguish those two things. There's a difference between a huge download for the install, which, hey, all you climate change activists, means a lot of extra data being used, means a lot of extra data being stored, means a lot of extra data being transferred, means a lot of extra bandwidth being used, all to download a browser full of features I don't use. But if you're not using those features, yes, to your point, it does not make them slow and clunky. But, that's a thought.
Yeah, it becomes a problem when your browser sucks up more processor power than your best AAA game.
This is true. I mean, and
next thing you know, your browser's going to request maximum GPU power too.
Yeah, well, I was having issues when I was doing the power tests on the Pi 5. The thing just kept on randomly shutting down. Well, what was happening is the cable I was using was not a high power cable. It should have been, but it wasn't because I just didn't have a high power cable. I had to go out and buy a $20 cable just to do better high power cable. So my cable was capping out like 400 amps, which is 400 milliamps, which is why my power rating was so low on the pictures I did on Matrix. It's actually higher when I use a high power cable because it's actually performing better. But what was happening is the voltameter was not allowing power pass through fast enough. And every single time the thing crashed, guess what I was using? Firefox. Firefox caused a CPU spike. CPU spike happened. Thing couldn't get enough power. And it was like the gas, like the fuel pump failing. The car just craps out.
The cable has too low. It was too small in gauge.
No, so I mean, it was a USB 2 standard, and for the Pi 5, in order to make sure it doesn't do that, you need to be running probably a 3.2. So I went out and bought a 3.2, which curiously is still blue and not red, but it does actually get above the the blue standard. So it's labeled as a 3.2. It says it's a 3.2, so I'll trust the 3.2. But yes, it is a much thicker cable. In fact, where is it? It's over there. I can't get it right now. But that's really what the issue was. So, I don't know. Any other thoughts on this before we go to comments? I think I got this.
Yeah, so so I watched the DT's video, and I also watched briefly. I think it was TechBoard, one of those who claimed that Firefox is dead. And clearly it's not, because it might not be many people using it compared to maybe 10 years ago, but there is still a lot. There's still a huge user base using it. So just because the percentages is low does not mean that it's dead. So.
Yep. All right. So here I decided to go ahead and grab my cables. So this one is the one I was using, which caps out at 400 milliamps. This is USB. This is a USB 2, and I went out for $20, but this USB 3.2, so you can see how much thicker the wire is.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's what you need to run the higher power. Now this one's still not as fast as it could be. You can get thicker ones that will do up to 240 watts, but I haven't seen any of those with an A on one side. All the ones I saw that go up to the 240 watts, there's USB Type-C port on both sides. This is the highest power one I saw anywhere with an A on one side, which is I think it caps out at 65 watts, but the Pi cap out power is 25 watts. So it's all good.
I remember LTT did cable testing, checking on various price ranges of USB cables in order to determine if there was an actual difference. And he was actually a little shocked to discover that it was actually some differences. So the expensive Apple cable actually have some computing power inside in order to make things efficient and and a few other things.
Yeah, actually, up here I actually have a USB 1 standard.
Nice.
That old, huh? Wow.
No, it's not old. It's not old. It just came with something that doesn't use a lot of power. So this one, now this is where the color coding does work. So this is white inside, which is USB 1 standard, which it actually, you can see the cables actually are, that one's actually, okay, so it is a little bit thinner. But the problem you have is trying to do any form of data transfer with it. It just does not work at all, like no data transfer. But it can charge low power devices. Like I might charge it to recharge my studio light up here or my RGB light.
They do make USB cables that are power only and no data lines in them.
Yeah.
Like this guy. We use this for.
What's the inside look like? Is the inside white?
No, it's black.
It's black. So that might be a 2 standard.
Yeah, I think it is.
It's hard to tell. But yeah, this one here is extremely bad, but I use it to charge low level things. So yeah, so those USB cables do make a difference depending on what you need. And of course, going into Best Buy and like, I need this kind. Well, here's one like, this is a USB 2 standard. No, it's all the same. No. You should have one in stock. I checked your website before I came here. But
I've got this.
Yeah,
I've got this one USB cable. It's a USB 3, but the inside of the Type A side is red, and I'm like, isn't that reserved for 4?
No, I was 3.2 is what that was reserved for.
Okay.
Yeah, so it might be a 3.2, but you never know.
I have teal colored USB
teal, if I remember. I think teal is power only, if I remember. Somebody can correct me on that, but I think teal is power only.
I don't know. Well, sometimes my microphone works on it, sometimes it don't.
It's for the golf resort.
Yeah, I do remember seeing a teal standard. I thought it was a power only, but
I think it's a 3.2 or something like that. Where the blue ones are stop at 3.1.
So teal, this color defines super speed plus mode and USB connector that this color provides much faster data, also used for type A or type B USB. So maybe that is the step above your
but then you have
blue.
the complication, I think Linus Tech Tips and maybe also Louis Rosman commented on when they wanted. So you had USB 1 and 2, and then the USB 3 came along, and when they wanted to upgrade from USB 3, they changed the numbering scheme so that in certain cables, a USB 3.0 cable is in certain cables are dramatically much faster than a 3.2. So it's almost impossible to determine what a cable actually is.
Well, there is a guide over in England called Explaining Computers. And he did a video on all these cables, explaining them explicitly what the differences were.
Yeah, I think I might have seen that video.
Yeah,
it's called USB ports, cables, types, and connectors. No, that's from a different guy. But this guy does.
Yeah, okay. So the one I got here is a USB 3.2 Gen 2, which goes up to 10 gigabit per second data transfers. And the power rating on it, though, like I said, the data and the power rating, you have to usually find those in different standards. The power rating on those generally go up to 65 watts with an A to C, whereas a C to C generally can go up to like 240. So you really got to watch, especially with this. This is why I had an issue with a lot of your with a lot of these different devices using different ports. Man, you plug the wrong cable into something, you're going to cause a fire. And so I kind of wish that they weren't doing. I wish they weren't doing quite as much of that. But yeah. Anyway, let's go ahead and look at our comments, and then we'll jump on out of here. We can
Your pie's hungry demands.
There you go. 42 watching on the Tubies, checking out comments on the Tubies now. Gun, what's the story? Okay, we just got into that. Yes, I'll be covering Microsoft Recall on Saturday. I see the same thing they did with Thunderbird happen with Firefox. Just the companies. Yeah, Thunderbird is becoming so crazy bloated.
I see that Peter Jansen on YouTube is doing the same thing that I do. He says that the web browsers suck a lot less with the proper ad blocking node script and knowing and using all the hotkeys, which is my way of doing things. I use the keyboard for all as much as possible, and I only use the mouse to click on links, and so I navigate using the arrow keys and everything. And I have a lot of plugins to turn off and remove unnecessary clutter and annoyances. And yeah, so he has a point that when you have the proper plugins, using Firefox and using Chromium is a lot better experience.
Hold on, monitoring the refrigerator. It was
for a brief moment.
Low power. All right.
Yeah, for a brief moment, I actually thought we had lost you because you were actually not moving.
Yeah. No, so I had the big computer on, and the refrigerator just jumped on, and that means two big things are pulling a lot of voltage, and so the refrigerator actually said it was too low a voltage, which kind of can happen if the cable's not plugged in tight enough. I want to rewire it down there and hard cable it in instead of right now it's just using a regular cigarette plug. But occasionally it gets loose and then it doesn't draw as much power. So I had to do that.
Yeah.
Re-elect the joe.biden.gov browser? No.
Nice.
Malvad browser. As Ivan had figured out today, there are a few little issues with that.
Yeah, you need to stop and think in the last 5 years how many new browsers we really got.
Yeah, not a whole lot.
Yeah, we got a whole lot. We got the Malvad, we got Brave, we got Vivaldi, we got the LibreWolf.
I thought you said like 2 or 3 years, though. Last 2 or 3 years.
I said within the last 5 years.
Oh, 5 years? Isn't Brave older than 5?
I don't think so. Or at least in popularity.
Okay. Yeah. I'll agree with
Remember they had the problem with the Libre coin or something like that? One of the browsers was
it's the bat issue, which they did a few little changes around. Peter Jensen, OnlyOffice has a connection with Google. Yikes. Yes. In fact, if you pull up OnlyOffice inside of Wireshark, it will make constant connections to AWS. This is the offline mode. Constant connections to AWS servers and constant connections to, I don't think it's constant. It will ping Google Analytics and Google API services. Now, the thing about OnlyOffice is they have a feature that allows you to log into your Google account, which will allow you to, if you want to, share contacts, and allows you to use Google Docs and to edit documents in Google Docs, which is a nice feature. The problem is that even if you're not logged in to Google, it still is running Google API services and constantly pinging. You can have a look at it in Wireshark. And I did a video looking at that and the fact they have an app that has Google and Meta tracking apps. And I was not concerned about the permissions. A lot of people were concerned about the permissions in the app. The permissions are not a problem because of what the app does. Because it's a full collaboration app. Of course it needs access to read-write. Of course it needs access to the internet. It's an app that does online collaboration with a lot of other people. There's a lot of permissions involved in that. What I had a problem with is they have Google and Facebook trackers embedded into the app. Then there was on the OnlyOffice forums, people said, hey, can you release an app that doesn't have these analytics tools for more FOSS-pended? And they closed the thread down and said no. Pocket is not opt-out. Is this misinformation hour? No. Yes.
Pocket is removed from LibreWolf.
Ash, Pocket is opted out. You have to, when you log into the browser, you install the browser and you go into settings, Pocket is enabled.
Yeah, I have to turn that off.
Yep. So, no, this is not misinformation hour. Believe it or not, I've set up Firefox 5 times this week looking at Raspberry Pi builds. Trust me, it's opt out.
That's where your money goes, in the pocket.
No, it goes into the IRS's pocket, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you edit this into a shorter segment, maybe you should use my fake news video.
Fake news! Prefer Firefox only, dudes. I could still configure it to do. Yeah, it's as much as I'm not a huge, I don't like the direction they're going, but yes, I still use Firefox and it's the browser I recommend because it is open source. I can do anything with it. I should probably lean on LibreWolf a little bit more, but
Yeah,
I have LibreWolf in my systems as well.
And for those who manage a system where there are more than one user in the system, you can enforce certain settings to either disable or turn on certain features if there are some reason that you don't want people to have this particular browser feature enabled or not be able to change it for some reason.
Yeah. The browser PDF reader sucks. It's very slow, huge browser interface, getting in the way of actually showing the content that lacks proper hotkeys. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Use dedicated software for it. I mean, even your Windows computers has dedicated software for it. Adobe Reader, but it doesn't have that, and Linux, of course, there's 700,000 of them. Great integrated PDF viewer isn't all that good. Yeah, it's like there's times I want to use it, but if I hit download, it should download, not be like, hey, let's do this. Blind people is not an excuse to make a separate add-on for that. Yeah, go ahead.
The Coco Daddy has a good point in that Firefox extensions can be more of a security hole than the browser itself, which is a valid point.
Go ahead.
Yeah, there are cases of, I think it was one or two popular plugins that was taken over with the blessing of the old developer in order to continue developing a certain plugin, and then they inserted certain spy features which really tanked. Yeah, so he has a point.
That is a valid point, but I think we need to look at it and weigh it this way. So for the features we're talking about, no, let's go back to the features for accessibility, right? The number of people that need those features for accessibility is extraordinarily low to put tons of extra data inside of a download that most people aren't going to use. It makes sense to use an extension. But if Firefox manages that extension, they can take care of that security hole really well.
Yeah.
So yes, I agree. If you're relying on a third party to extend the browser for any of these features we're talking about, I agree that's a problem. But if you're managing it yourself and you have a way to say, hey, there are a bunch of extra features that you can add on to your browser that are all done by us and have a dedicated spot in the add-ons, Firefox extensions, which are going to be much better. They're going to be audited by their team a lot more closely. They're more controlled by their team. Now I can say, okay, I want onboard translation. I want onboard AI. I want onboard accessibility options. But if I don't, it shouldn't be part of the code at all. That's what I'm saying.
You know what? They should make a Firefox installer. So when the installer pops up, it's got a bunch of options you can check on and off you want in your browser before you install it.
Yeah, for Windows or Mac, that would make sense. And in the Linux, they would just separate them out into different packages that you could select, kind of what the Debian does to a lot of packages.
Well, that's how most of the net installers are, like for Debian and stuff like that. You just select what you want,
I think
it goes and gets it.
I think the challenge with that is that putting together an operating system like Debian in a modular way is a way different task than putting together an application in a modular way. Unless you're doing it in that extension method. Because with Debian, you can build it headless without a desktop environment at all, or you can choose one of a dozen desktop environments. But each one of those is a separate, standalone, full separate package that's not part of the core itself. Whereas we're talking about a software application with core applications, you could accomplish it if you do the external extension system I'm talking about, and then you can change it on the fly anytime as well.
I just think that, if they basically made a Firefox, they don't have to do it like in 6 months. They can take, 2 years and make a Firefox installer. If you don't want the AI, don't check the AI box. If you want, if you want an email thing with it, you check the box, or you don't check the box if you don't want it.
So we can we can add an email client into Firefox too. Sweet.
Yeah. So, if you want the DRM package, Widevine from Google, you check the box. You want that in your package. If you don't want it, you don't check it. But when you're all done, you have the stuff you want, you hit install, and it goes and gets all that stuff and assembles it for you on your computer, ready to use.
Yeah, in many Linux distributions, this is exactly what happens with the Widevine plugin. You have to manually check the box in order to activate the Widevine.
It comes already checked when you install it.
Yeah, that is distribution dependent, because by default they don't do that on Linux. This is a choice that your distribution has opted to pre-select for you, because in my distribution they don't do that.
I'm not using a distribution supported Firefox. I'm using an all-in-one tarball.
Yeah, so they have when you build packages for Linux, the default behavior by the compiler is to not include the wide one. So you have to check a box, and what that does is it downloads the plugin from their server and install it in your home folder somewhere.
So I have never remembered actually having to turn that on. I went and checked to make sure it's turned on, but after installing Firefox and going through all the settings, I've never seen it turned off on a fresh install.
Mm.
Yeah, I remember.
Your situation may be different because you're getting different distributions than I am.
So another YouTuber who tested this 5 or 6 years ago is Robbie Ferguson from the channel Category 5 TV. A user was asking by email this problem, and in one of the shows he tested this because he didn't know about the people had the problem using the DRM on Netflix, I think it was, and he actually tested it live on the channel, and there was a checkbox. He just clicked that, and something happened, and suddenly the streaming service did work.
Yeah, I got Firefox, Paramount Plus, Amazon Prime Video. I have all those, and they all work with the wide vine and turned on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so apparently there's a difference between the distribution packaged version of Firefox and the one that you are installing. So that's an interesting. Yeah.
Yep.
This is before they actually made a Debian download thing for it, like they did for Ubuntu. They made a Debian thing too because everybody's complaining about they didn't like the ESR.
Well, so they did it because they didn't like the snap.
Well,
nice.
No, they did it because people didn't like the snap. The fact that you can install Firefox without doing ESR on Debian is just a positive side effect of that.
But I use the tarball type message because I can copy a whole Firefox and all its links and everything from one computer to another without going through the install process, and it appears on another computer just like it would on the one that I took it off of.
Yeah, that's a nice handy feature.
Mm-hmm. All right, we got 53. Let me jump over to Rumble real quick. 53 comments or 53 viewers on Rumble. I think that is now beating YouTube. We have more people on Rumble than on YouTube right now. Thank you guys for watching over there. You can hit that join button over there. Join our locals. I see we have one person jumped in. Hera Zealot is now a monthly supporter. Thank you, Hera Zealot. And FYI for you, the monthly supporters, yes, there will be another short story, hopefully by the end of the month. I think I mentioned this last week, but I had written most of a story and I completely hated it. And so I had to restart it, and I'm back on track, and I have it mostly done at this point in time. I need to do, I think, one more chapter and then do some QAing and then get the audiobook out. So it might be next week. Hopefully it'll be next week, because I think that's the last week of the month. But then, of course, the audiobook will be up. We'll keep that up for a whole nother month. But yes, there will be another short story. And I just didn't like what I had. Didn't want to give you guys garbage. So I wanted to go ahead and rewrite it. Let's see.
There's even a viewer on Twitch.
Was that?
There's even one viewer on Twitch.
There's one viewer on Twitch. Let me bowl up Twitch.
But no one is talking.
Oh, nobody's talking over there. Oh, it's just me and you over there, huh? All right. Yeah, I haven't logged into Twitch in a while. All right. Always frustrates me that FOSS is great, but FOSS still needs money. Yes, they do need some money to survive. So yes, we do actually need to support our FOSS projects.
But there's also a lot of FOSS. But there's also a lot of FOSS projects that actually is not run by. It's not dependent on monetary income of any kind, because they have a day job, and they have do this on the evenings, and they have some of them have a large follow development team known as paid. So it's not necessary true that all FOSS projects needs money in order to move forward, but a lot of them do.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of them need money, not just for themselves, because a lot of them it's just hobbies for them to be part of the open source. The money goes for the servers and the web pages and stuff like that for what they're doing. Yeah. So people can access it in groups.
Yes.
I learned that with the Peppermint clan when I was working with them, is they needed the money for their website and to, work amongst themselves so they could pass packages and stuff back and forth securely between each other.
Here, Vivaldi is the KDE of browsers.
It is. I agree. It's
too many settings in there. Yeah.
Tux the Penguin on Rumble says that at least on Firefox you can easily set your default PDF reader. In my case, I have not set a default in Firefox. So it
a default what?
A default PDF reader.
That's news to me. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah. So my browser is configured to is not configured to have a default reader. So it hands it over to the to KDE system to determine what is the default reader, which in my case is Ocular.
Okay, this is a really good comment here from, is it Shiverstorm? I'm trying to wean myself off the Play Store. Couldn't find Firefox for Android on GitHub or something. Okay, so they don't have it directly there, but what you do is you go to F-Droid and you download, I think it's called FF Update. So that is a package that that is an installer for a ton of stuff. So install that, and then you can choose. In fact, you can even grab ungoogled Chromium from that. You can grab Firefox. You can grab Firefox Focus. You can grab the Tor browser bundle. You can grab Orbot from that. So that is a giant package on F-Droid. Just download it from F-Droid. You don't even have to install the F-Droid app. Just download that, install that package, run that, and it gives you a list of browsers to install on an Android phone. So that's what I do. So I'll download that guy and then add all the browsers, and then remove it, and then just reinstall it later when I want to upgrade it.
Yeah, so, and when you have it selected, and when you have it selected, at least when I tried it a couple of years ago, when you have installed a browser using this on subsequent running of this application, it will default to upgrade your existing browser rather than giving you an option of what every other browser to install.
Yeah,
which is nice.
All right, so FF Updater and F-Droid. So it has Fennec F-Droid, Firefox browser beta for nightly, Firefox Focus beta, Ice Raven, Mall browser, Tor browser alpha. It has Bromite, Mulch, Brave, Chromium, DuckDuckGo browser, Kiwi browser, Privacy browser for F-Droid, Thorium, Vivaldi, and I guess it also has Canine Mail, Orbot, Fair Email. So there's a ton it has. So you just head on over to F-Droid for that. I'll go ahead and paste this over in the Rumble chat since that's where you were rumbling. And so that is what you do to get all of those different things on your Android phone.
Browser shopping.
Yep. That was a good one. Yep. Let's see. Mall browser right now. Brave, which is available on GitHub too. Problem with Chromium is some of the forks aren't always up to date. Snap Chromium is probably the best since it's maintained regularly by Canonical. Oh no.
Tux the Penguin commented that in Firefox, in the settings menu, if you type applications, you can set the default app, and if you set it to system, it will open in whatever is the system default or the system default that you have configured to use.
Yep.
Which is a good...
Uncle Bonehead tells Dan the UI problems in Firefox is because Windows just sucks. So
That is true.
Oh, what did I miss? Just a bunch of old geezers scraping about browsers. That's true. It's true. You kids stay off my Firefox.
I ain't kidding. Firefox on Windows is much different than it is on Linux. Is how everything is sized in proportions.
Yeah.
I actually do on occasion. It's not often, but on occasion, when there is a certain link that looks suspicious, I often opt to open it in links in the terminal in order to check if it's a normal site or if it is a scam site of some sort. Then it's no JavaScript or anything running that can harvest anything.
Yeah, really weird links that are suspicious to me. I poured them over to a virtual machine.
Uncle Bonehead says alt text on a PDF is as stupid as Braille on the steering wheel buttons. Okay. Or how about Braille on the drive-up ATM machines?
Yeah, that reminds me. Either last year or the year before, the data association that I'm a part of had a talk, and it was about accessibility in the public space and in buildings and so on. And he mentioned a story about what can happen when you put accessibility features and you don't have anyone who is blind to test this feature that you are implementing. So there was a new building in Oslo. I think it was where they were testing, where he wanted to go somewhere. And this elevator had these new touch buttons where you just touch the button in order to select which floor you are going to. And this touch button had a braille on each button.
All the elevators over here have that too.
Yeah, but in this particular case, just touching the button in order to feel what it says presses the button. And it didn't occur to anyone that in order for a blind person to find the right button to push, he has to touch a lot of buttons in order to...
So, well, yeah, the braille on our buttons are like just below the buttons. So you find the braille and then you feel which button or floor you want to go to, and you go up a little bit and there's the button for it.
Yeah, the coolest is during the eclipse, the professor I was hanging out with that day, he actually does a lot of work with the blind. So he does. I can't remember if I was talking about helping press the tactile maps for the blind. Well, he was working with a grant with a company doing a braille depiction of the solar eclipse. So they had a guy that was a researcher who was a blind kid, and they had the technician there. So they were using Windows, unfortunately, but they were basically doing a bunch of live coding on the spot to fix a lot of things. And they had these tactile blocks that are, it's kind of like computer screens for Braille. So you can type in stuff and the software will just raise the palette so you can actually type and read as you're going along. And so what they did is they rebuilt they were working on rebuilding the application to take a visual image. So they brought in the image from a telescope, and with a telescope with a camera, they fed the image into the computer and had the image simulate in Braille what was going on with the eclipse.
Nice.
So it was really neat to see. So let's see. I think we have just so many comments. I can't get to them all because we got to jump off here and get to our news.
It's a half an hour longer than you usually
yeah, we usually try and shut around at 8, but hey, the stuff was going, so let's jump in a couple more comments over here on the tubies here before we wrap up. Paramount Plus wasn't working when I was using NextDNS and Brave. That might be something in the NextDNS might be doing that. It depends what they're blocking.
It works on Firefox.
Mark says Jesus rules. Amen to that. All right. I think we are caught up everywhere. So we're going to wrap up here. Tomorrow, 8 p.m., weekly news roundup. We're going to jump off the call here. And if you are a supporter and you didn't want to be on camera, we will be hanging out for, I don't know, half hour, hour-ish. I don't know. So if you want to jump on over, and the links are all on the support networks, you can jump on into the call and hang out in the after show. That will be going on right now for the next hour-ish or so until we get off. Oh, and Baltimore Tools here. Greetings from Shenandoah Valley. Let me grab my Shenandoah Valley thing. Yay, there we go. Shenandoah Valley. Yay. Good to see you, but we're wrapping up the stream now, man. All right, guys. We'll see you guys tomorrow with the Weekly News Roundup.